What's up, everyone? So I got up today and I just was not feeling it. I don't know about you. Do you ever have those days where you are just not feeling it at all? Man, I think I ate too late last night, and I do that sometimes. I try to get away from that. And I'm trying to cut out carbs or something. I feel like the more I try to get healthy, the weaker I become, because then the littlest things throw me up and I get thrown off so easily. I don't know what it is. But man, I was not feeling it this morning. I'm not feeling it right now. So I don't know. Maybe you're going through something like that. We all are going through something. We're waking up, we're getting into our day, and all that. And just the weirdest things are happening lately. I wanted to start it off this morning with, what do words mean? Because I try to become greater and better at language, but some of the words that I use all the time, I've never actually looked into what they mean. And this might make you question my intellectual ability that I don't even know certain words. I get the gist of a lot of words. There are a lot of words that I just use and I could put it in context and try to make sense of it. But the word of the day is solicit. Honestly, I don't know what that means. I don't know what the word solicit means. And I hear it in different contexts. I said, no soliciting. There's the crude word of soliciting sex. I don't know what that is. And then soliciting and like selling something. So is that when you're selling that? And that I don't know what solicitation is. So we're going to look it up today. I'm going to look it up, and right before your eyes, I'm going to find out, what does the word solicit mean? I'm typing it into good old faithful Google, and solicit says, ask for or try to obtain something from someone. So that's what is throwing me off, because in context, I would always think it does mean you're asking for something. But then I always see signs that say no soliciting, but it's like a person coming to your door, they're not asking for something, they're trying to sell you something. So that's where I'm getting all thrown off, and I'm like, what does it mean over here? What does it mean over there? Maybe you know what that word, and I guess I know what the gist of it is, but it says solicit means ask for or try to obtain something from someone. So when you see no solicit, I don't know. Anybody ever like this? There's words out there we use, we throw in context, but the word of the day for me is solicit. Solicit. So because whenever I was thinking about it, I was in my mind, I thought it was, because you say someone solicits sex, I would think that they're asking for it, I guess. I don't know. But then I was just completely just flipped, because I was thinking, you're going to go and sell something. So does that mean somebody's selling it? Like prostitution? Is that what that means? Either way, it means to ask for or try to obtain something from someone. Whoa. So maybe that's why I am way off today, but I want to maybe try to introduce some word, and maybe people out there that you know these words. You got them in the back of your head. You already know these things easily. But for me, today the word is solicit. And now I know it is to ask for something or try to obtain something from someone. It's not necessarily the sales thing, but you're trying to get something from someone. And then I always think about the movie Airheads, because I always think in that movie, Brendan Fraser, Adam Sandler, Steve Buscemi, like, that movie's awesome. And he's like, no solicitation. He's like, he's wanting to get a record deal, and you say it has to come unsolicited. Unsolicited. And I'm like, what does unsolicited mean? Maybe words mean things in different contexts, but it means to ask. Maybe he wants that record deal without asking for it. It needs to come to him like freely from someone else. I think we're there. I think we're there, everyone. I think we're there. All right. Today we are talking about, my name is Brandon Fogel. This is evolution. And we're going to get into this. And I did want to also talk about, like I said the other day, I'm going to start researching and understanding what evolution is, because I said I used the name for my show because I like the word, but I'm also looking into the theory of evolution. And right now, just what I've looked at so far, it is, to me, it's almost, it would take a very strong faith to believe in that theory. Just based on, I've been trying to watch a bunch of videos and try to understand it. And I'm trying to come at it with an open mind of what people are saying and not just think I got everything right. Because I'm not going to have everything right. Nobody has everything right. We are not anybody. Nobody here is the sole person that has sole arbiter of truth in reality. They have it stuck in their head, and nobody else has it. A lot of people have bits and pieces of truth, but just looking at the theory of evolution so far, it does not seem strong to me. And I will keep you updated as I research it and as I try to study it, because I want to see this carbon dating. I want to see these fossils, because so far, a lot of times all I see is a little fossil and then they say it's this huge thing. So I want to find out about that. I want to learn more about that, as well as right now, I keep seeing that they use a lot of a whale, whales in the ocean, that they have a bone inside of them that looks like that they used to walk a long time ago. And inside there, that we can find inside of a whale, that's evidence that they have some type of bone inside of them that gives us a hint that they used to walk years and years ago. I don't think that's that strong of evidence so far, but I mean, I'm still looking into it because they use a lot of words. I want to see pictures. I want to see what the strongest evidence you have for evolution, like the theory of evolution and Darwinism. I mean, and just also, I know I was going to talk about the hard sayings of Jesus in this, but I also want to talk about just seeing at Darwin and him going to the Galapagos, and he saw a finch over in this island, and then there's a finch that's over on this island, and they have similar traits. I need to be educated. I need to be edumacated. Big time. So I'm studying it. I will keep you updated. This is maybe the one of many videos that I bring that up and talk about that. But in this video, I know we're talking about solicitation. We've also talked about Darwinism and all that. We're going to talk about the hardest saying, the most difficult saying of Jesus, at least for me. I should have put that in the title, but this one is the strongest one for me of why I have struggled with Jesus at times. I ultimately and completely believe in him, but this is one that has caused me to trip up. And it's regarding this saying, what he talks about, and it says in all the Gospels that he has in his ministry, he's preaching to the people. Let me switch screens just so you have a verse in front of you. All good stuff. All right, so he's preaching his ministry in front of the people. He's always saying, and he gives this impression like he's going to be coming back within that same generation. And it over and over, and we're going to look maybe this first verse right here. It says in Matthew chapter 16, the very bottom of the page right there, Jesus says, 16:27, "For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay each person according to what he has done. Truly I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." A lot of times, like as a Christian, it's easy to just skate over those passages and just not really fully flesh it out what Jesus is saying. Did he really think he was going to be returning within that generation? And as a prophet, because Jesus was a prophet, did he have the flexibility? He had the credentials of being a prophet, but did he have that? Because a lot of times, even in the Old Testament, there were prophets that they would say something was going to happen, and then it didn't happen. So the prophet Jonah, he goes into Nineveh and he says, in 40 days, Nineveh is going to be destroyed. The people repent, and then it's not destroyed. And then in the book of Isaiah, it talks about Isaiah goes to the king and he says, "You are going to die. You are going to die." And then the king weeps and cries out to God. And then God extends his life to live longer than he said he was going to happen. So it's like, can we change God's mind? I would say fundamentally we can't. But there are anthropomorphisms in the Bible that give us kind of a way that we can understand. And ultimately, in God's mind, in his eternal plan, it doesn't change. But it's almost he puts things in place that could give the appearance that his mind changes. So when Jesus is talking about this, truly I say some of you standing here will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. And I've heard so many different kind of ways to explain what he's saying. And then I've heard that he's talking about just a few days later that he goes up to the Mount of Transfiguration, and then Peter and John and James, they saw him, like they saw the like the glory that is hidden, was concealed in his humanity, like kind of just come through, and just they saw him. And that was the coming that he's talking about. Like that was like them seeing him in his glory. Was that what he was referring to? And I've heard that from New Testament scholars that I madly respect. I don't think that really is. That doesn't make sense that much, because he says some of you standing here will not taste death. So then now let's skip forward a little bit. We're going to go to the very end of Matthew when Jesus is given the Olivet Discourse. Let me throw it on the page for you as well. Find it. Maybe I should have found it before I got on here. Okay, this is another one in chapter 24, right here, like chapter 24, 44. Did I get the right thing? Did you? Two different things. I can't find the verse. It was one of them is Jesus talks about no one knows the day that he's going to return. He says the angels don't know and the Son doesn't know, but the Father alone. That's a tough one as well. But we have to understand that Jesus was a man. He grew up as a child. He grew up, had parents and everything like that. He learned. He didn't immediately come out of the womb just speaking perfect Aramaic. He had to learn how to speak. So there was a real reality to his humanity. So him not knowing the day he was going to return, was that him, the divine nature that was concealing it and kind of hiding that from his human nature? That's the only way I could understand that. But the verse I wanted to find out and it's at the very end. It's like, I'm going to find it. Might as well just look it up. This generation. Okay, let me see. 24:34. Okay. It's Matthew 24:34. Jesus giving the Olivet Discourse, and he's talking about things that are going to happen near term, and then he's talking about things that are going to happen long term. And it seems like he's like kind of conflating them. And kind of, you see a little bit of like the stars are going to fall from heaven, the moon's going to turn to blood, and the sun's going to turn to sackcloth. But then also this temple is going to be destroyed. And that was a legit, true prophecy that he declared that within that generation, Rome came in and just completely destroyed Jerusalem and the temple. But at the end of the whole verse in the Olivet Discourse in Matthew 24, verse 34, he says, "Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away." So for me, this is another one, like, and it hasn't to do with the same kind of milieu of, he's talking about no one knows the day or hour that I'm going to come back. And he says that it's going to happen within this generation. And he's talking to contemporaries. So is the coming of the Lord in that context, is there a difference? And I would say, and just studying the Greek, there is a difference. Like it's the word parousia, and that had to do with a judge coming to town, a judge doing his circuit and coming to town and making his determinations and deciding things and judging somewhere. So Jesus, I would say, maybe is being a little bit loose, and also in his prerogative as a prophet, he can have that near-term fulfillment future that's going to happen, but then there's the ultimate out there future that's going to be the greater reality of what he's prophesying. And I would say that is what's happening, because that's the only way I can make sense of it. Because he says, within this generation, Rome, the temple is going to be destroyed. It says not one stone is going to be left upon another. This whole thing is going to be coming down. This is 40 years before that temple was destroyed. And it would have seemed ludicrous for anybody at that time. But it happened. But he didn't come back within that generation. So was his coming just that coming in judgment? That's the only way I can make sense of it. And I've thought about the Olivet Discourse when Jesus talks about that. And I put it into three, I don't know why I always touch my face. Okay. I put it into three different perspectives, three different viewpoints. Let me see if I can remember them off the top of my head. One is that immediate generation that was right there that happened, and then they experienced that, they saw it and they witnessed it happen. But then the other one, maybe it's not 3, it's 3, and I hadn't thought through this yet. It's been a little bit before since I thought about this. There was 3. I'll try to remember those, but there was that immediate generation that they experienced it, that happened, and they saw it happen. But also, the coming of the Lord has to do with anyone, because we always think about Jesus' return when he's physically going to return. Is that going to be? Am I going to be here for the ride? Am I going to be front and center and a part of that generation when it happens? Really, to me, it doesn't matter, because the coming of the Lord for all of us applies to us very personally, because the coming of the Lord could be tomorrow for you personally, for me personally, because I could die tomorrow. I could die today. Our coming and appearing before God could happen at any breath. Our final breath could happen at any moment. So it very much matters how we look at Jesus' words, but this one has been one that has tripped me up. I've tried to gymnastically understand it and like what Jesus means. Ultimately, there is so much more that I do understand and I do see clearly about Jesus and trusting in him, that this isn't going to cause me to stumble, isn't going to cause me to trip up and throw him out. But it is a tough one, and it is one that critics will bring up, and I would say rightfully so, because if you look at it just at plain level, it does look like Jesus said something and didn't happen. But I would argue it has to do with him being a prophet. Like I said, certain prophets said things were going to happen, but then certain events didn't follow, and then God's grace, you could say, overcame. And God allowed more people to repent and come into the kingdom. That's why at this time right now, it's times of repentance. People are given that opportunity to whether they want to choose or reject the gospel, want to choose or reject believing in Jesus. So maybe that is what is happening there. So I don't know about you, but this one has been tough for me, and I'm certainly going to talk more about it, and I'm certainly going to talk more about how I'm learning more about evolution. So I'll bring that along the way as well. And if people that say that believe in evolution, the theory and all that is real, I will concede this is a good argument, because like I said in a previous video, that did make Rhett McLaughlin stumble and fall away from the faith. So whatever, if it's true, I am interested in what's true. And as far as I can see, Jesus is the truth. So I would say all roads are going to lead to him ultimately. So, all right. Make sure you like this video if you haven't, and subscribe, share it with your friends, and keep going and keep evolving to that best version of you.